Hello, hello. Welcome to this week's live stream. I am happy that you're here. I see that one person has seen the poll in the chat. And if you're joining live, go ahead and answer that poll if it something jumps out at you. We're talking today about the the guilt that in particular people pleasers feel. And I guess I can talk about this. If somebody could say that they hear me, that would be great. I guess I resonate with this because people pleasing was such a big part of who I was and who I thought I needed to be to keep other people happy, to not disappoint them, to not feel selfish. And so I constantly put other people first. And when I didn't, hi, Lene and Miss Emily, thanks for being here. And you can hear me. Great. Awesome. Are you out camping, Lene, or are you comfy at home? Not that you're not comfy while you're out camping. So I spent most of my life people pleasing. And then when I started doing things for myself, the guilt just showed up even more strongly. And I felt guilt most of my life. I remember feeling guilt. And I think part of it was confused with shame. But what I want to talk about today is, does this guilt ever go away? Right? Because you might be thinking, I can't I can't speak up. I can't move forward with how I want to live my life because the guilt is telling me no, that it's wrong to do what I'm doing. Yes, you're out camping all the way up north of the Arctic Circle. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Well, welcome. Welcome here. I will have to look up um, to see like how far away is that from your home? That is so cool. And is it really, really cold? Or is this the time of year where it's not so much? Um, that's so cool. So thanks for joining. I appreciate it. And I am going to promise to keep this to 40 minutes, now 35. So I want to honor your time. And if you're watching on the replay, I want to honor your time as well. And if we have, you know, things that I end up not getting to address, I'll address them in a future live or in a video. So if we wait, and if you're joining us, if you could vote on the poll, which one resonates with you? What makes you give into guilt? So far, it's 100% on I don't want to disappoint them. And that was my biggest people pleasing hurdle to overcome, was the fear of disappointing someone. So if we wait though for guilt to go away before we speak up or do something for ourselves, we might be waiting a long, long time, right? If you have always put other people first, put yourself on the back burner, if you feel selfish for doing things for you, you know this guilt that I'm talking about, right? It's like guilt if you do and guilt if you don't. It feels like a no-win situation. When I 8 years ago, when I started realizing how much I was putting other people first in my life, trying to make sure that they were happy, doing everything for them, and just really diminishing me in my life, my expectation, once I had that realization and started practicing putting myself first, my expectation was that the guilt would stop. And that would mean that I was on the right path. So over the last 8 years, as the guilt didn't stop, I kept thinking, I must be doing something wrong. There must be something that I'm missing here. And here's what I discovered in the last few years in looking at how guilt shows up in my life. Guilt is not information about a moral behavior, but we think it is, right? We think that we're doing something wrong, or I did. I felt like I was doing something wrong. Anytime guilt showed up, I thought, oh my gosh, I need to back down. I need to not speak up for myself. I need to agree. I need to do whatever to make the guilt go away. Can anyone relate to this? So just over 1,600 kilometers, so 1,000 miles from where I live down in southern Sweden. It's nice, normal summer temperatures here right now. That's amazing. Amazing, amazing. Good for you. So guilt is not information about morals. It has nothing to do with morals. Yes, you can relate, Miss M. And it's not your compass. What it is an alarm from that goes off when you start to break free from the rules that you have followed for so long. This is part of the ego, is the guilt. Um, but it comes from decades of conditioning. If you didn't put other people first, if you did something for yourself, you were selfish. It's all that conditioning that we were either taught outrightly or subliminally. And then that got programmed into our nervous system. And so the nervous system interprets me starting to prioritize myself as danger because it's not what has been normalized, right? What got normalized is putting everybody else first and feeling the guilt if I didn't. Aqua, teal, and turquoise. Those are three pretty colors together. Hello from Colorado. Love your way of explaining. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here. Uh, and I am glad that um, my message is coming across here. So we get conditioned, right? To if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So then it was like, well, who's making the rules for the nice? And you start guessing what will be acceptable and what won't be acceptable. And then that those behaviors, those actions and those thoughts get conditioned into the nervous system. And if you act outside of that pathway, then you get this alarm that goes off in your body, in your brain, saying, alert, alert, it's not safe to do something for you. And so then the guilt flares up that I'm doing something wrong. So again, the nervous system ends up interpreting you wanting to live life on your terms, to do things the way you want to do them, to put yourself first as danger. And we aren't here. I've realized this. I didn't know that, but we aren't here to live according to other people's rules. Yes, there are things that, laws that we need to follow, but for the most part, we get to make up the rules that fit us best in our life. And when we live our life that way versus trying to keep other people happy, life becomes so much more fulfilling. It becomes so much more, you'll become so much more content and you'll have so much more inner peace when you are no longer concerned with living life according to what you think other people or how you think other people need you or expect you to live. Because which person's rules or expectations am I going to follow? Is it my 95-year-old mom's? Is it my siblings, my in-laws, um, like my sister-in-law, right? My friends? If you work for a boss, is it your boss's expectations? So you're constantly having to morph yourself to fit in to whoever's expectations you need to meet at the moment. Letting go of that and living life by your parameters, by your on your terms is so freeing. It's so freeing. That's complete freedom to be able to do that. Yeah, Lene says, "In my first marriage, it was my husband's rules." Absolutely. And so then back to the guilt, right? Every time we didn't live by someone else's rules, the guilt most likely came up. And I would love if you haven't voted in the poll, what makes you give into guilt? So far, if everyone's voted, it's all about not wanting to disappoint anyone. But I'd hate to know, I mean, I'd love to know. I was reading at the same time, do you hate feeling selfish? Does the guilt indicate that you're doing something wrong? Or maybe you don't want any conflict. And speaking of that, tomorrow, by tomorrow, maybe this afternoon, I will have a new video coming out on conflict and how conflict destroys respect from other people and from yourself. So, again, this is decades of conditioning, and I want to stay on track here for timing wise. But we break an old rule, right? The alarm goes off even when that rule was hurting you. And then if we think that the guilt is like a green light, red light system, right? Where green light means there is no guilt, therefore move forward. But if you get a red light of guilt, then you need to stop and not do what you're doing. Yes, it's absolutely programming from a young age. Like me, the simplest version is if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So if someone's feelings were hurt, or if I got a sense that someone was disappointed in something that I did, it was my fault. And I felt guilty from that, right? And then I thought it was my responsibility to repair it. And so it becomes this vicious cycle, right? And I built this, I opened it up in case it came up in conversation, but I built this thing called the circle of awareness because until we're aware of these things, until we're aware of where this guilt is coming from, we can't do anything about it. And this circle of awareness, just real briefly, is we get a request for something. And maybe it's like a friend invites you for drinks, right? And I know this might resonate with some of you in the chat, watching or watching on the replay, but you're trying to break away from drinking because you know that it doesn't serve you, right? Like you feel bad the next day, you drink more than you want to, you spent time doing something that you really didn't want to do, but you didn't want to disappoint them. And so you went out for drinks. And then your drinking spirals. Like you broke the seal of not drinking for a week and now like screw it, I drank. So then it morphs into more drinking, right? Then that morphs into beating yourself up because you told yourself, right? And it just is this vicious cycle from one request. And the alarm that sounded of guilt that you didn't want to disappoint someone. And so you said yes, right? And the guilt of saying no wins versus doing what you know long term, even short term, is best for you. So, absolutely, it's programming from a young age. So, this circle of awareness, right? We get the request, then we get the pull of the guilt, the fear of disappointing someone, and so we say an automatic yes, right? And maybe then we have resentment, we have exhaustion because we did something that we didn't really want to do, that wasn't in our best interests. And then we self-blame, right? And then we get the next request for something because we haven't broken the cycle. This is before awareness, and it just gets repeated. So we get the guilt of possibly, disappointing someone if we said no, and so we just do an automatic yes. How do we break this cycle? We break it through awareness, and we start to recognize in the moment, oh my gosh, this is just that fear of disappointing someone. This is just my conditioning that has taught me that the guilt means I'm doing something wrong. It's just the conditioning that has taught me that if I choose me, their disappointment is my fault. So again, it's the thought, it's the conditioning that if I choose me and do something for me and I sense disappointment or hurt from them, that their hurt or disappointment is my fault. That's the conditioning. That's not the truth, right? The way they feel, the way they react, respond is on them. It is not my doing. Of course, if I hurt someone, right? If I said something hurtful, again, their reaction, their emotions are their responsibility. It's not my place to, oh, how do I want to say this? It's not my place to placate them. It's their responsibility to come to me if I truly did something hurtful to them that I didn't recognize and say, "Hey, when this happened, that I was really hurt." And then that gives me a chance to recognize what I did and repair, unless they're morphing it into something that it was not. That's another another video, right? But after we start becoming aware of where this guilt is coming from, that it's just my conditioning, it's just my past telling me, it's my nervous system that has been programmed and conditioned to believe that guilt means I'm doing something wrong. Once I can get that awareness, then I can start to pause and say, when I feel like I'm doing something wrong, is it, am I really doing something wrong? Or is this just an old voice? Is this my ego speaking up? Is this an old pattern that that just, what's a pattern, right? It's just something that repeats itself. Guilt is a pattern that repeats itself until you start recognizing it. You can't change any pattern in your life. We could also call it a habit. Guilt, thinking of or feeling guilty has become a habit. We can't break any habit or change any pattern until we recognize it, until we become aware of it. That's why I talk about blind spots. And I have my Inner Circle membership, just a quick plug for that. It's $6 a month. You can join. YouTube has been offering free memberships, I've noticed, for a month. So you can click on the join button, see if it pops up for free for you. You can join. There is a video in there about how to see what's in your blind spots because it's so important that we know what's happening in our blind spots. So once we start recognizing the guilt for what it is, then we can say, wait a minute, how do I want to move forward? because we have to do the reps, just like working out at a gym. You can't just show up at the gym and then go home and expect to become stronger. You have to do the reps. You have to move forward and take action, even though you feel guilty. So, in spite of the guilt, because the more you do that, the more you're training your nervous system that you're not in danger, that nothing bad is going to happen, that you can handle it, that you trust yourself enough to handle whatever outcome happens, right? If you said no to the friend that invites you for drinks, trusting yourself that if they get upset, if they get mad, first, it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong by doing what's best for you. And thirdly, you're not responsible for them being hurt or disappointed. They can be hurt and disappointed by that, by you making a choice for you, but someone on their own healthy journey, right? Discovering that this could be the best lesson that they needed for someone to start telling them no, right? That they can start standing in their own power instead of relying on you to soothe them or boost them up, right? We all are responsible for our own well-being. And them reacting and feeling guilty or hurt by you saying no to something is them not them allowing resentment to build up in themselves and not looking at how it's hurting your relationship or how it's hurting them to behave in this way themselves. Any more things in the chat? And still 100% on what makes you give in to guilt. And maybe if you're on your phone, I don't know if you can vote on a poll if you're on your phone, but I would love if you're coming in to add to the poll what makes you give in to guilt. I don't want to disappoint anyone, which is what is 100% right now. I hate feeling selfish. Guilt means I'm doing something wrong or I don't want any conflict. And did I say that already? Speaking of conflict, I have a new video coming out either later this afternoon, it's noon my time in Phoenix, or tomorrow morning on conflict avoidance. So going back to, if you say yes to the invite, right, that means that guilt won and you're not building the reps of sitting in that discomfort long enough to allow your nervous system to start rewiring to realize when it realizes that, oh, saying no and doing things for myself isn't dangerous. But right now, our nervous systems, when we've always put other people first, our nervous system thinks that there's real danger and its job is to keep you safe and alive. So it is going to do what it can to protect you and keep you safe and alive. And that means it's going to flare up guilt. Oh, no, this is a situation where you don't want to say no, right? You don't want to put yourself first because that is danger. Now, you don't sense that, right? All you sense is the guilt. And the guilt so far in your life has meant I'm doing something wrong. I'm selfish. I'm going to disappoint them. I'm going to hurt them. So recognizing that where that's coming from is so important. So again, you go, you pay the price for something you didn't even necessarily want to do, right? You just did it to avoid the guilt, to avoid disappointing them. And that's what guilt-driven decisions actually cost us. They cost us living our own life. And continually living by those guilt-driven decisions never allows you to break free of the guilt. So guilt actually is not, again, about doing something wrong. It's about doing something unfamiliar. Again, the nervous system and the subconscious, the brain doesn't recognize, and I use the brain and subconscious simultaneously, even though they're not really the same thing. But what was I saying? So unfamiliar, right? The nervous system doesn't recognize guilt. It recognizes it as, again, danger, and it makes you believe that it's dangerous because it is not familiar with you speaking up for yourself in this way, for you saying no. That's not a familiar pattern that you have built in your life. And it's no fault of yours. You just did what you were conditioned to do, what you were patterned to do. Becoming aware of these things is what allows us to start breaking free of that. Anything more? Am I missing something in the chat? No, I think I'm at the bottom. Okay. Oh, I just saw something. It seems like if we are programmed from a young age to people please, are we also thinking that others should be doing more for us and we get bummed out when they don't? Exactly. Right? I do so much for them. I don't understand why they're not reciprocating. Many times what happens is they take advantage of that, right? They take advantage of you always being the yes person. And next week, I'm glad you said that because next week I've already decided what the live stream is. It is going to be about if I can't trust your no, then I can't trust your yes. That was a kind of a mind twist for me when I first heard it. Like, wait, what? So we're the yes people, right? And we've said yes so much that that other people have started realizing we're always going to say yes, whether we mean it or not. And that is very hurtful to the other person. It's also very hurtful to you. And that's what I talk about also in this video that's coming out um, today or tomorrow about how this steals respect from other people and from yourself. Exactly. It adds to our burnout and not feeling good. Exactly. Again, it's not that you it's not that you're doing um that you are doing this on purpose or that you were conditioned this way on purpose. My mom is the sweetest lady, and she didn't condition me on purpose to be a people pleaser, but it was how she was raised, right? To serve other people and to keep people happy. She was raised in the Depression era. When she was young, it was the Depression. And and they were farmers, they were farmers without a lot of money. And it was all about helping other people and serving other people and keeping other people happy and safe, right? And it morphed into this people pleasing thing. I think more so for me than for her. So it's generational, right? She was just being with me the way that she knew how to be. And it was easier for her to because my parents weren't emotionally demonstrative and neither were their parents. I don't remember, like, very seldom seeing anyone cry. I don't ever remember, which breaks my heart for little girl me, that I don't ever remember being told, "I love you." Although I wasn't abused, right? But I got that sense that I needed to please people in order to not disappoint them, to gain love and approval. And so they didn't do it on purpose, right? You're not doing it on purpose, but it's the programming. again, once we can recognize the programming, when I recognized it 8 years ago, it was like game on. That changed my life. And aqua teal and turquoise, I'd love to know what your name is, but that changed my life because when my husband, then husband, now ex, stormed out on New Year's Day, it was the brick to the head moment to me to wake me up, to make me start investigating. That was my 3rd marriage. How am I showing up in all of my relationships that is causing, if you will, these huge disconnects, me attracting people who were taking advantage of me, who just were like, "Well, yeah, if she's always gonna say yes, then I'm not gonna stop her," right? Oh, Becky. Hi, Becky. Yes, so reading back, so it seems like if we're programmed from a young age to people please, are we also thinking that others should be doing more for us and we get bummed out when they don't? Yes, absolutely. So I spent probably close to 55 years being nice, right? Making everybody happy, expecting that in return. It's not their responsibility to save me. It's not their responsibility to caretake me. It's my responsibility to do that for myself first. And when I start showing up with that energy that I respect myself, I accept myself, I love myself as I am, then I start feeling it from them. But until I can feel it from myself and give it to myself first, I cannot receive it. My ego won't allow me to receive it from them because my ego will say, "You're not good enough. They didn't mean it." Right? And so it's this vicious cycle. It's just a vicious cycle. So, where was I? The guilt firing is not that we're because we're doing something wrong. It's because we're doing something unfamiliar. It's the programming, right? And it's the old wiring, it's the programming, it's the old rules getting challenged. The ego doesn't like that. The ego, we make up our ego. We make it up. We we create the story that becomes our ego. And the ego recognizes that it's made up, so it drags its heels, it holds on by its, nails in order to not die, because we know as it knows as easily as we made it up, we could destroy it. That's what the ego is. And so the ego doesn't want to let go, right? It wants you to feel the guilt because then it gets to stay alive. And that guilt of the old wiring, the old programming, the rules getting challenged, that discomfort is the rep that you need to do. Don't back down. Don't take it as a red light that you shouldn't move forward. Take it as a green light that you're breaking the old programming, that you're breaking the rules, the old rules, the rules that don't serve you, right? We have to do the reps. We just absolutely have to do them. We can't break free of this guilt or of anything that doesn't serve us until we step into it, right? It's like waiting for the guilt to go away before you act is like waiting to feel comfortable before jumping into the cold water. I was talking to my mom yesterday or the day before about I loved swimming when I was young, but I grew up in rural Iowa, and sometimes in the summer, it wasn't that warm. And she had the rule that she wouldn't take me to the swimming pool unless it was at least 68 degrees outside. Well, the swimming pools weren't heated, right? But as a kid, I loved swimming so much, it didn't matter to me what the temperature of the water was. I was going swimming. If it was 68 degrees or more, I was going swimming no matter what. And so, right, that would be like me waiting for the water to get warm before I jumped in, and I'm never going to jump in if I'm waiting for that. And so we have to stop waiting for the guilt not to be there. I can tell you 8 years of working on this, it doesn't come up as often, or I recognize it much more quickly. I'm not quite sure which it is, but it is a huge difference from 8, 10, 20 years ago of how I would react according to how much guilt I was feeling. Guilt drove my life. And as the driver, I visualize it like it can't even see over the steering wheel. But it thinks it's powerful, but we end up down in the ditch all the time because it doesn't see where it's going. So guilt can show up even when you're doing the exact right thing for you. Don't expect it to go away as the indicator that now I can move forward in my life, because that most likely is not going to happen. But like I said, I will tell you that it diminishes greatly, and or you start recognizing it for what it truly is, and then you can act accordingly. It's 12 o'clock my time, top of the hour. So let's wrap up here. Don't wait to feel brave to do the thing, right? Do it scared. It might feel what you want to happen and have guilt at the exact same time. So you might want to not drink with your friends this night, and guilt can still be there. And you say, no, but thanks for inviting me, right? It's not a sign. Guilt's not a sign that something's wrong. It's just what breaking free of this and repatterning, programming ourselves looks like. It's just what it looks like. The real question isn't, when will the guilt stop? When does it stop? Aline says, I feel you talked directly to me today. Thank you, Heidi. You are so welcome. Still 100% on don't want to disappoint anyone. So the real question is, when does the guilt stop? The real question is, what voice am I going to listen to? Right? Am I going to listen to that guilt, that guilt voice, the voice of guilt, the voice of the ego? Or am I going to listen to my intuition and tell myself, wow, I'll feel so much better if I just say no, if I decline this invitation this time? Or maybe I go and I have a mocktail, right? I've started doing that. And it's fun, like having the bartender, like creating a challenge for the bartender to come up with, the best mocktail ever made. So, like, make a game out of it if you need to. Just like if you were gonna go to the gym and it's not your normal thing, you don't wanna be seen in shorts in front of those people, whatever it is, make a game out of it. Nobody's paying attention to you as nearly as much as your ego makes you think they are. So again, do you want to follow the voice of guilt, or do you want to follow what will make you your own voice? What will make you feel proud of you? What will make you feel stronger and like you're living your own life? Again, remember that guilt is not a green light, red light situation. It just isn't. It's Maybe it's a yellow light, like proceed with caution. I'm going to be here regardless, no matter what. But that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. So I appreciate you being here so much. Um, oh, let's see, I missed another one. Becky said the programming goes so deep. The guilt feels so normal. It has become normalized, and that's so hard to recognize in the moment. So maybe recognize, like, what is the feeling? Where do you feel it in your body? Is it heart palpitations? Is it you get a pit in your stomach? Is it you start ruminating, right? About, oh my gosh, I need to say no to this or whatever it is, right? Where do you feel it in your body most often? And then make that like your anchor for when I feel this pit in my stomach. Oh my gosh, that is guilt speaking up, right? Create some way that you can start recognizing it. I get it, right? Like I just lived through guilt and acted according to the guilt, reacted so long that I didn't even recognize it anymore for what it was. Again, we have to become aware before we can ever make a change, before the pattern or the programming will start to rewire. Hi in the Rockies. I don't know if you've been listening or if you just joined, but we are just finishing, so you can listen to the replay. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was helpful. I know according to, oh, good. I'm glad you'll try that. You know, um, and you can probably recognize what situations bring the guilt the most often. And so think about them ahead of time. Like, how did I feel? What came up most often? Maybe it's a ringing in your ears or it's a, I don't know what guilt feels like for you. For me, it was like this pit in my stomach, this dread. I would almost get emotional or um nauseous, if you will, like with with thinking about saying no or disappointing them. It would make me almost sick to my stomach. Thank you so much for being here. I've been listening in the Rockies said, cool. I appreciate you being here. And again, next week, we're going to talk about if I can't trust your no, then I can't trust your yes. What that means. Watch for my new video coming out later today or tomorrow. Love to see you in the inner circle. There is a video in there about blind spots, which would be very empowering for you, Becky. There's actually 3 videos in the membership. You can go join for a month and then, leave. Watch those and leave. It's all up to you, but I would love to have you in there. And the blind spot um, video has an assessment that is quite comprehensive, and it will help you see what areas of your life where you're diminishing yourself the most, where you're people pleasing the most, that might be impacting your life the most. And that would be the place to start first. All right. Have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week, same time, same bat channel, 2:22 p.m. Eastern time. Every Wednesday I go live. I appreciate you being here. Thanks and be well.